We'll start with the NFC South. I think the South divisions in both conferences I think are really interesting because it's not necessarily wide open on the AFC side, but there's some long odds. In the NFC side, I do believe that it is actually wide open. The favorite is the New Orleans Saints plus 120. Then you have the Carolina Panthers at 3-1, Falcons plus 325, Bucks 5-1. What have you made of how these teams made out of this weekend?
I mean, look, the one position that can move a needle for any team is the quarterback. And it's going to be interesting how long Carolina goes the Andy Dalton route, or they just decide to just put Bryce from day one. But we know this about Carolina. They have a really good defensive team. You know, they've improved. They've got a lot of talent offensively in their offensive line. That got a lot better this year. And with Miles Sanders, who they paid a lot of money. I mean, think about this. Philly's got, I think 3 running backs on their team now with less money than what Miles Sanders got. So, you know, and maybe this will work out. But Sanders gives them another chance to have a good player behind them. And they draft this Mingo kid out of Mississippi, who I think in the second round, he's going to play for them right away to go along with Thielen and if DJ Chark comes back from his ankle surgery. I like this team. I do. I like them. I think they'll run the ball effectively. I think they'll be smart on how they play. And their defense is good enough. So, and their special teams last year was greatly improved. So for me, I like them. I think, to me, when I look at Atlanta, and I said this on the pod, and I've said this to you before, I just don't get their team-building methodology. You know, I mean, here they are, and they finally drafted Bergeron, the kid from Syracuse, in the second round. But, again, how are they playing? You know, what are they going to do with Bijan? And when your defensive line has 4 guys over 30 years old, Bud Dupree, can he play good enough? Grady Jarrett, you know, Calais Campbell. I mean, what are we doing here? How are we stopping anybody?
I believe they signed David Onyemata as well.
Onyemata too, but that was a big signing. But he's over 30 years old too. Yeah. You know, so they got Onyemata. I mean, so like to me, the game's about offensive and defensive linemen. I mean, that's what it's all about. And you know, I just don't know how Atlanta's going to stop anybody. So I don't really. I mean, I love Arthur Smith's play calling. I love his play designs. I think that gives him a chance. The Bucs. I think, to me, the Bucs are really interesting because they don't have a quarterback. I mean, they don't have a quarterback. Is it Kyle Trask? Is it going to be Baker Mayfield? If it's Baker Mayfield, the way he played for the Panthers, the Panthers would be in the playoffs. If Baker Mayfield had played anywhere near he did his second season for Cleveland, the Panthers would have won the – Matt Rule's probably still the coach in Carolina.
Mm-hmm. And I know Sam Darnold was hurt in the preseason, but if he had started all 17 games, the Panthers probably win.
I think they would have. I mean, he played. I mean, look, Sam Darnold, you know, he cut down on his mistakes. He was more effective, you know, and they ran the ball. They managed him correctly. They didn't ask him to win the game. They asked him to manage the game. And then we come to the Saints. I mean, look, the Saints are always an interesting team because the Saints kind of do things different. The Saints do things the way you should do in terms of team building. They focus on the offensive and defensive linemen. I mean, you know, they spend their first 2 picks on defensive linemen, which is smart to do. And, you know, and I mean, look, it's going to come down to, can Carr manage the game? Can he play critically? With Carr, it always is when the play breaks down, what happens? You know, what does he do when the play breaks down? And, you know, they get the Kendra Miller kid from TCU to back up Camaro to go along with Jamal Williams from Detroit. I mean, there's 3 good running backs there. Their offensive line is really good, and we know they've got good receivers. So, you know, this is a good team. I mean, you know, they've kind of put together, and they've got these young defensive linemen that have got to hit for them.
Yeah, I think if I had to place a bet right now, it would be on Carolina at 3-1, just because I think that's the better number, right? Bryce Young.
Yeah, I think that's the better number. I don't understand the Falcons number at plus 325 because they don't have a. I mean, we don't know. You know, we don't know about the quarterback.
They like him.
But I don't know how they can because I watched the tape of him at the end of the year. It was hard. Now, maybe he's going to take that Mother May I, and hopefully he can. But compared him to Sam Howell had a good 1 game for Washington. He still threw a pick. I mean, it wasn't a great game. It was but it was the last game of the year. So I don't know how you could get that excited about him, but they obviously are.
Yeah, I will say this. I thought Atlanta improved their secondary. I mean, signing Jesse Bates, expensive, but he's a better player than what they had. They took a flyer on Jeff Okudah, former first-round pick. Maybe they can get something out of him. A.J. Terrell's really good. So I think their secondary is probably going to be the strength of that defense, but if you can't get to the quarterback, it's going to be tough.
Yeah, I mean, if they could count the 3 Mississippi, their secondary is going to be great. If you got to count the 5 Mississippi, guys are going to get open now.
Go to VSiN.com/subscribe to become a VSiN Pro subscriber today.